What's up, fam, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video, we're talking about my military career, moving into special warfare, and then transitioning to become an entrepreneur while I was in the service. So we're gonna be talking about the highs and lows, the ups and the downs, the struggles, but also some of the victories too, and how I just built a business to seven figures, over seven figures in just a couple years. So thank you for coming to hang out with me. If you really get value out of this video or out of any of my content, please go like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. That would mean the world to me. But most importantly, thanks for coming to hang out with me. I really appreciate you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.
So it just keep me directionalized because my story is long, so I don't want to go off in a rabbit hole. Grew up in a small town in Kansas, probably like 4,000 people. There's like 4 or 5 restaurants. I graduated with 67 people. So a very small town, Midwestern boy. Grew up kind of in the town, but also my mom's house was on the outskirts of town. Not necessarily on a farm, but you know, it's a very rural area. So I was always the guy that was loved, but it was hated. So loved by a few, hated by many. Kind of had a loud mouth. Got in trouble a lot. Experimented with drinking alcohol at 15, lost my virginity at 15. Just very misguided and very lost. Didn't have my identity, was just doing things to fit in really. And so I got consumed with partying and stuff at a very young age because it helped me fit in. And I knew when I was intoxicated, people thought I was funny. And it's something I hadn't really experienced my whole life. So it was something I felt comfort in. I became very, not addicted to alcohol, but I consumed it a lot, and a lot of it because it made me fit in with people. And it made me feel validated, made me feel wanted. And so I struggled with that all the way up until I went to college. I wanted to be an engineer. I always had big dreams as a kid, and I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. I thought about being a doctor, and then really fell in love with architectural engineering. The idea of crafting something and then seeing it built. And I was very good at AutoCAD and drafting and things. So I went to college to be an engineer. Very smart in math. I was gifted with that, so at least I knew I would be okay when it came to all the calculus and everything. But went to college and just started partying. You know, I was partying, getting blackout drunk 2 to 3 days a week. Literally waking up the next morning and not having a clue what I did 3 days a week. And so I was just drifting off onto this path that I started to have some awareness that like, this isn't good, because I wasn't going to school. I was failing out of all my classes. And I knew the end of the semester was coming up, and I looked at my grades and I had F's in all my classes. And in high school, even though I didn't really try hard, I always had straight A's. So I just knew I was on a bad path. Also as a kid, you know, my uncle was a Marine. I loved war movies that I wanted to join and serve my country. And so impulsively, I just went to the recruiter's office, talked to him a little bit about a job. And I think a week later, I signed up for the military, for the Air Force. And within a month later, around Christmas time, I shipped out to basic training. It was a very quick transition from recognition of, hey, I'm going down this bad path. I've been going down this bad path for like 6 years now, and I need to change. And I knew that there was one thing that would change me, and that would be, you know, enlisting in the military, to where I was forced to change, and I had no option. It wasn't my own demise anymore. It was the military's going to make me right. So that was kind of my childhood leading up to that point. I joined the military, shipped out down here to San Antonio. I went through basic training, became a contract specialist, in which I was writing contracts for the Air Force, procurement, so buying, you know, different commodities and services for the Air Force, but it was just very unfulfilling. I did that for 3 years before I moved to North Carolina, and I started seeing Air Force guys carrying guns and doing cool stuff. And I didn't really know that existed, but I still had that, you know, my childhood desire to do cool things and be on the battlefield. So I started asking some questions and talked to a guy who's like, yeah, this is an Air Force job, you can do this. I had no clue what it was. It's called TACP, Tactical Air Control Party. So once again, quickly signed my name up, began training. I was already pretty physically fit. Heard that there's a very high attrition rate, 70, 80%, so 20% don't make it. And so I knew that I had a lot to lose, because if I were to sign up and go to training, coming back would be a little bit humiliating, because most people come back, right? They go try to do this thing and then they end up coming back because they didn't make it. And I was afraid of that failure. So when I went, I committed everything I had. Went to Herbert Field, Florida to TACP school. It was 6 months long, very rigorous training physically. I graduated with honors, top of my class, just because I pushed myself to the max every day. I showed up with that fire and intensity every single day of my life. Was willing to persevere through any pain and adversity they put me through, and it taught me a lot about myself as a man. In fact, when I came out of that course at like 24, I learned more about myself than I had ever learned in my entire life. So that course really transformed me. And being a TACP, I come back from that school, moved to Fort Carson, and quickly deployed to Afghanistan. First combat deployment. Once again, another opportunity for learning. I had never been in combat before. never been in a combat job. And quickly after being certified and graduating in this course, I was now found myself on the Taliban's back door in Afghanistan, not really knowing what to expect, not knowing how I'd react. Went through the whole deployment, the wintertime, not fighting season, so went on a lot of missions, air assaulted into a lot of villages looking for Taliban, nothing. And right before I left, went on a mission and was told that we had a good chance of meeting opposition. We flew in, and that day changed my life forever. We were ambushed from 3 different directions. I was pinned under heavy fire, trying to call in for air support. Most of the infantry had backed up, retreated a little bit, but being that I was on the radio, trying to call in for air support, I had to stay put. The antenna that I have to hold up is really a target for the Taliban. They know that when someone's holding an antenna up, that's the guy calling for air support. So the gunfire got closer and closer and closer. And for about 15 minutes, I was pinned under heavy gunfire, bullets moving within inches of my head, skipping by my feet. And that day changed my life forever, because when I woke up the next morning alive, I realized that life is a lot more valuable than I had given it, that it's so precious and that at any moment it can be taken from you. And that was the closest I'd ever been to losing my life. And I just walked away there knowing that God had something for me, because in a moment that I should have been killed with thousands of bullets raining in past my face, I didn't understand how I was still alive. I still don't to this day, other than knowing that God had something better in store for me. It wasn't my time to go. So that really shaped me and changed my life. And after I came back from that deployment, I had a higher calling. And so I started my own business. While I was in the military, I opened a brick and mortar nutrition store in 2012 because I had been obsessed with the fitness industry, and I was a little bit disgruntled about the lack of integrity in the nutrition industry, and I wanted to change it. So I opened my own brick and mortar nutrition store, began to sought out small businesses who created products with integrity, and did very well with a business partner at my store right outside of Fort Carson in Colorado Springs. The business began to grow. And a couple of years later, I decided I wanted to create my own brand, my own product. So I created a brand called Strong Physiques, which I started with one product, which is a branched chain amino acid product. And I just wanted to change the way the industry did things. I wanted to create products that were inclusive of all the different things we were looking for, but they could buy it in one product rather than having to buy 3, 4, 5 different products. Save the consumer money and it works better. So that's been my philosophy, is excellence in the products that I create since the day I became an entrepreneur. It's just something I've always embodied. So I began creating my own products. Quickly after that, got involved in the apparel industry and making fitness apparel for men and women. In 2018, my business had crawled from doing $150,000 a year to $250,000 a year to quickly in 2019 doing almost $5 million, just over $4 million, $4.5 million that year. So very quick growth in those 2 or 3 years. And in those years, once again, I had an opportunity to learn a lot about myself, a lot about business, a lot about failure. So in that, I've just learned a ton about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be an entrepreneur whose business grows quickly, the rises and falls, the struggles with pride and ego, and all the things that come with success. I'm now in a transition point in my life where I'm beginning to coach and help other people who want to build a business for themselves. Maybe want to change their family dynamic. They want to have a higher level of income. They want to do something better for the world. And so now I'm moving into this advisory stage of my life where I want to begin to help entrepreneurs change the landscape of their life and hopefully generations behind them. So in years before I wanted to do this, I just wasn't ready, but I've got the maturity, I've got the skill, the excellence, the mindset to now help shape leaders and shape entrepreneurs and shape people to be their best selves, to build teams, to build cultures, and to build something that is worthwhile and valuable to the economy and to people around them.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.